A sheet bend is when you have two pieces of cordage that you want to connect together, but one's larger and one's smaller. So you make a small loop here, and if you were coming through, you know, just imagine making a square knot here. Okay, so there's my square knot. But a sheet bend, instead of this tail running down inside, you're going to actually pull this loop up right here, and watch this tail. It comes through this loop. This creates what they refer to as a sheet bend. This can be used to tow things. It's very strong. It's very strong. It doesn't come undone, and it's easy to undo when you're done towing or whatever you're doing. A sheet bend is anytime you want to connect a smaller piece of line to a larger piece of line. So you'll basically take the larger piece of line, you'll take the smaller one, and you'll kind of do like you're gonna do a square knot. See that, how I have a square knot? That's not a sheet bend. The sheet bend is where you take the tail out and you pop it through this little hole. You see that little hole I created? So this is a sheet bend. Creates like a little X there. And this is a very strong knot for towing things when you have different sizes of line. Connecting two pieces together. Maybe your rope wasn't long enough or something like that. Sheet bend. Okay, I'm trying to run a ridge line, and I don't quite have enough cord to get around this tree. So this is a good example for using a sheet bend. Now I'm going to use a little bit larger cord. So again, let's tie that sheet bend. Come in around. It's almost like a square knot, but I'm going to come under and out. What this will do is this will basically connect my cords together. Don't you like the contrast of colors so you can see? Now I have a nice tight thing, and I can finish my ridge line. So let's go ahead and put my little slip knot up here, like I always do. Okay, then I'll come around this tree. I have my slip knot up here. Now I should have plenty of line because of that sheet bend to continue and finish my ridge line. See that? Right there. Now, again, let's go over and let's pull this tail through right on top of this little slip knot that I'm holding. We're going to make a little slip knot there. My fingers don't want to grab it. There we go. So now I was able to complete my ridge line by using a sheet bend right here. And this line is under tension. Okay, so sheet bend helped save the day. Finished my ridge line with no problems. And like I mentioned, that thing's under pretty good tension. So that's a good use for a sheet bend when your cord's too short or you don't have enough to get around. Sheet bend will get you out of a pinch. Okay, let's say you're going to use a sheet bend, but it's not strong enough, or what you're towing is too heavy. So you can use a double sheet bend. Okay, so here you go. You got this piece over here. Again, you're going to come up just like you would for a square knot. Okay, see that? But instead of coming through here and calling it good, you're going to make one more wrap around everything and then poke it out. Pull everything up. This will tighten your double sheet bend, and this puts a lot more torque, a lot more strength on it, so you won't slip. This is if you had some heavy load. Double sheet bend. Okay, now we have the double sheet bend. Okay, so let's say for example we have our tail. Let's say we're going to do our sheet bend. We did our square knot, right? Or our thief's knot in that case. Let's say the sheet bend would be here, right? That's the single sheet bend. Let's say we want to add some strength to it. What we'll do is we'll take this tail, we'll run it all the way under, and we'll go through a second time, and then we'll pull everything tight right there. So we basically have 2 wraps on the same knot. So this is a double sheet bend. Gives you a little more bite, a little bit stronger. This is an excellent knot. You can tow things and it'll come out easily. That's the double sheet bend. Okay, I'm back, everybody. Let's talk about the double sheet bend. Okay, the same scenario. I have my ridge line that I'm trying to put up, and I don't have enough cord, enough parachute cord to get around this tree. But the only thing that I have with me is some 11 mil dynamic. So we're going to go ahead and use the double sheet bend. The reason we use the double sheet bend versus the single is because there's such a difference in the size of the rope. Okay, you could put 2, 3, 4 wraps, however many wraps you want on there. But that's going to be the double sheet bend for us. See that? Beautiful contrast of colors. So now, just as always, I'm going to put me a little slip knot right here. Okay, set that down. Let's run this around the tree. And let's finish our ridge line. So we're using a little bit of 11 mil. Another thing that you could use this for, looks like my slip knot's about to come out. Another thing that you could use this for is if you had to tow somebody, maybe there was a car in the ditch and you had some 11 mil, but it wasn't enough, and maybe the only thing left that you had was some 6 mil or something like that. You could definitely use a sheet bend for that. Okay, so let's get this thing pulling. My slip knot's not cooperating right now. Okay, there we go. Now, let's pull this ridge line. See that? Pulling it nice and tight. There's my sheet bend. Let's go ahead and set this over. Reach through and find the tail here. Pull it back. Oh, loosened it. Let me tighten it again. This larger rope makes it a little bit difficult to tighten. So one over. Reach through. We'll just pull it right on top of this branch. That'll be fine. Okay, now we have us a nice solid ridge line. Let's take a look. Now I normally wouldn't leave it that crappy in a real situation. I'm just doing this for the video, just to show the sheet bend. Okay, normally I would terminate it much cleaner than this. But there's our sheet bend. You can clearly tell that this thing is plenty tight. Okay, so that's some of the uses for our sheet bend. When you have 2 totally different sizes of line. Okay, a fisherman's knot is something that you would use whenever you want to connect 2 pieces of cordage again. Okay, and you want something stronger than a square knot. So basically what you do is you put an overhand knot on each end. So my purple one is going to tie an overhand knot around the white one, and then in return I'm going to make the white one put an overhand knot around the purple one. Okay, so what happens is when you pull these knots together, they bind and they tighten. This creates what they refer to as a fisherman's knot. This is a very strong knot. It's very good to know. Fisherman's knot. A fisherman's knot is when you want to connect 2 pieces of rope together. The easiest way I can explain it is to start with an overhand knot. Run your other line through it. So what you've just done is you've created an overhand knot on the white line. The purple line created an overhand knot around the white line. Now what I'll do with the white one is I'll create an overhand knot around the purple one. So now you basically have two overhand knots, you know, one tied around the other. So when you pull them together, they bite. This is the fisherman's knot. It's a very good knot, very strong. Okay, here we are again trying to run a ridge line, but I don't have enough paracord, enough orange anyway. I have some green, and I want to connect these two pieces together. So we're going to use just a single fisherman's knot, and again it's just an overhand knot on each side. So the green one's going to overhand knot the orange one, and then the orange one is going to overhand knot the green one. This is going to be good for us to use to complete our line. Now when we put a lot of pressure on this, this is going to be very hard to undo. We're probably going to have to cut this, okay? So, but in any case, we can still use it to finish or lengthen our piece of paracord. So again, let me put a slip knot in here. There we go. Now let's get our green. Let's run it around this way this time. Okay, got a bunch of branches down here. Firewood on the ground. Okay, so there we have it. Now, I like it the other way. It looks better the other way for the camera. Let's come around this way. So, the point that I'm trying to make is that we are able to complete our ridge line using the fisherman's knot. Okay, let's hold that, double this thing over everything, reach through, pull it back on itself. There's my ridge line, and a closer look at my single fisherman's knot. Okay, this thing's tight too. So there you have it. That's a good use for the single fisherman's knot. Connecting two pieces of like-sized cordage together. Double fisherman's knot. So let's suppose we're trying to use a fisherman's knot to join two pieces of cord together, and it's not strong enough. We want more strength in it. So we'll use a double fisherman's knot. So again, you have two pieces of cordage the same size or very similar in size, and you want to connect them. Okay, so first thing I like to do is I like to take this one all the way around, and basically what I'm doing is I'm kind of making a square knot almost, or excuse me, a figure of 8 almost. Now when I come underneath, I'm going to go under the X and out of the X, and it'll lock up something like so. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing on this side. Around the bottom, over the top, around the bottom, in and out, in and out. So again, this is my double fisherman's knot, and as you pull, it tightens it up. This one's very, very solid. If you use this under a load, it's going to get extremely tight, and it's going to be hard to undo. But it's not gonna slip at all. Very powerful. Double fisherman's knot. The double fisherman's knot. Okay, again, we're going to connect two pieces together. But let's say, for example, that we're going to need something strong. Okay, so I have my rope laid out just like this. I'm going to take this purple end, okay, and I'm going to run it around underneath the white one, and I'm going to come over the top. So I have something like this. Okay, and this is the working end of the white one. Now I'm going to run this purple tail underneath everything again. Then this tail is going to go in this hole, and it's going to come out of this hole like so. Hope you can see that. So again, I need to make sure my tail's long enough. So my purple one is going to come around to here. Okay, so that's what I'm starting with right here. Now this purple tail comes in and out. Now we cinch everything up. Whoops. There. That's the double fisherman's knot. Now we're going to do the exact same thing using the white line around the purple line. Okay, so I'm going to pull it and make sure it's long enough. This is the working end of the white line. Going to go around underneath, making an X. See that? Now let's make that X a little shorter. Now this tail end, I'm going to reach behind, pull it out to here. See? Now it's going to go in here and then out here. And I'm going to pull this tight. I'm going to address the knot. There's my double fisherman's. Now the more you pull, the tighter it gets, the more it tightens on itself. This is an excellent knot for joining two pieces of rope. The tails are on the same side. Very strong. Okay, I'm trying to run a ridge line and I don't have enough cordage again. So we're going to use some more 550 cord that I had. I only had about 6 feet of it, but it's going to be just enough to get me around this tree. So we're going to use the double fisherman's knot. Okay, so we're going to come around, make an X, just like a figure 8 almost. Come in and out, 1, 2, pull that one tight. Leave a little tail on it. We're going to do the same thing with the orange side. Come around the green, 1, 2. Hopefully you can see some of this. I know I already showed you how to tie it, but it'd still be nice to see it in a practical sense. Okay, so there we go. Now as you pull them together again, they tighten. Now, let's go ahead and finish our ridge line. Let's put our slip knot here. Slip knot. Boom. Disappears, right? So let's run our cordage around the tree. Where's our slip knot? Right there. Okay, let's tighten this baby up. There we go. Now I'll come over, come through, and pull it back on itself. That'll lock me. And that's a, let me tighten that up, slipped out. That's a slip knot, by the way, that I was using there. Come through, find it here, come back on itself, and that'll tighten me up. This is a slip knot that I have here, right there. Nice little slip knot. And I have a nice solid ridge line, and let's take a look at that double fisherman. This let me complete my ridge line because that's where my rope would have ended to begin with. I didn't have near enough, but I had some good 550. There's a slip knot right there, another slip knot right there. So if you want to see the uses of the slip knot, there's 2 of them to look at. So that's the double fisherman's. A slip knot. This is also known as a simple noose. So what you're going to do is you're going to make a twist. Okay, now see the one that's on the bottom? The one that's on the bottom, I'm going to run its tail through like kind of like a loop, and then I'm just going to pull everything tight. This creates a simple noose, or what we refer to as a slip knot. Okay. Cool thing about this is when we get ready to undo it, all you have to do is pull the tail and it disappears. Boom, gone. It's a good one. Your basic slip knot. Okay, here's the working end. You're going to make a loop. Okay, see, we're making a loop. The working end can go in the loop, pulling it out. This is one of the basic slip knots. This is where the tail can be pulled and it'll undo the knot. Another way to do the slip knot is coming around just the same way we did, but instead of putting the tail end through, we're going to put the long side through. That's another version of the slip knot, same thing. And again, as we pull, see that? As we pull, it undoes itself. Slip knot. It's also known as a simple noose. Okay, right now I have a ridge line up, and I wanted to share with you the types of knots that I use for this ridge line. And I have two of them. Don't worry about this fisherman's knot. This is a double fisherman's. But I'm more specifically wanting you to see these two. Let me zoom the camera in a little closer so you can see the detail of what I'm trying to show. And that's these two knots right here. These are what are referred to as slip knots. These work really good for putting together ridge lines. Okay, and they're nice because if you pull the tail off, they come out. And then if you get the rest of your line off of the tree or whatever you're connected to, and you want to undo them, you just simply pull them against themselves and they disappear. So again, you can put it together like so. Then you go around your tree with your line, come through the first slip knot here, go back towards the tree, tighten it as much as you want, put you a second slip knot here. When you pull that second one, you pull it towards the first one. See, it slipped on me, it got a little bit loose. Let's go a little tighter. 1, 2. When you pull this through, just pull it against itself right here. This will give you a nice tight connection. And the cool thing again is when you're ready to go, you just pull these things. Boom. That comes out quickly. Then you have this other one, just pull it, boom, it's gone. Slip knot. Okay, a taut line. I like to use this a lot when I'm at camp and I have tarps and things out, and I might have them staked down, and in the event that my tarp might stretch or get loose, I don't want to remove my stake and put my stake back in the ground. So I like to use a taut line to help eliminate the chance of having to do that, because it works similar to a prusik in that you can tighten it up on the line. So again, here's the working end right here. I'm going to come around. So this would be, my finger here is representing the tent stake. So I'm coming here around on top of, okay, see that? Coming on top of it. Now I'm going to make one loop inside from underneath. So I have one small loop there. Now I'm going to run the working end back through one more time and make another loop. So I have two loops. Now from here I want to use this working end and make kind of like a D. I want to come here like so, underneath, and come back through. This will create a taut line. Okay, so I'm just kind of cleaning everything up, making it look nice. And so now, once you get everything all cleaned up and nice, it'll hold just like a prusik would. So if you were to pull, this is my thumb here is my tent stake, and this hand here that's jerking, that's my tent. See, it pulls and it doesn't slip. So then you could come up here and grab this and, you know, say you want to make it a little looser, or it's too tight, you want to loosen it a little bit, you just move it down. That's the taut line. Works very good. Good not to know. Okay, your taut line is when you have some sort of anchor point and you want to keep things tight. So in our case, I'm going to come through here just like so. Now I'm going to take this working end of the line, I'm going to come around and I'm going to go upward. Okay, now I came in front of, you know, towards you, like so, and I'm going to go behind and out once, and what that does is that creates a little loop there. Then I'm going to do that same thing again. So I'm going to come around again, inside the hole here, and I'm going to create a second loop. So I have 3 small loops right here in my line. Now from here I want to make the small letter D right here. You see this? Now you notice that this working end is behind the rope. Now once I get that little D made, I shoot it through the hole. Okay, now I'm going to tighten everything up. And what this does is this kind of makes, for the lack of a better term, it's much like a prusik. Okay, so you tighten everything up, make it nice and clean. That way it bites better, works really good. So when you pull, whoops, sorry about that. So when you pull on your line here, it doesn't give. But what you can do is you can lengthen it and still pull, or you can shorten it. But in either case, it'll bite. Okay, because this one's a little bit confusing, I'm going to tie it one more time. Okay, so again, this is the taut line. So again, I have my anchor point, come through, come around the top, okay, on your side, see that? Coming towards you. 2 loops, 1, 2, clean everything up, okay, make a D, and make sure that the tail goes behind this line where my hand is, and then come around through the front and through the hole. Let me zoom in here. Okay, so I'm here. I have my little wraps right here. I'll make my letter D. Then I come through the hole and out. Now I need to clean everything up. Like I mentioned earlier, this is kind of like a prusik. Then when you pull, it doesn't move, but you can loosely, you can slide it up and down. If you take the tension off of the line, you can tighten or loosen whatever you're pulling, and that's the taut line. It's a very good one to use on tent stakes and things like that. Okay, right now I'm looking at my drop cloth, and I have a lark's foot or a lark's head holding this grommet, this external grommet. And in my hand, if you follow it down, you'll notice that it comes here and there's a taut line right there. Okay, this taut line is connected to my anchor in the ground. Okay, so I want to take and show you how I set up this taut line real quick. So bear with me here. So basically, if I need to loosen my tarp, I just pull tight here, step on this, and then I can loosen my taut line, and it'll make it nice and loose. But on the opposite side, let's say I want to tighten it, I'll pull tighter, and then let's say I want to take all this excess slack out of my line here, then I'll tighten it. And when I get it nice and tight, see that? It grabs and it doesn't slip. Okay? So let me show that with a different color cord so it's easier to see. Okay, so in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and undo this thing. Let's loosen this thing so I can undo my lark's foot over here. So bear with me. I'll work as quickly as I can and get you where you can see this in action. Okay, so let me get some paracord here. Sorry about the wiggly camera. Alright, let me find myself another lark's foot, or lark's head as some people like to call it. You could also use a clove hitch over here if you wanted to secure it with the clove hitch. Okay, now I have all my parachute cord. I'm all tangled up, so bear with me, guys. Let me get a little bit more organized here. Okay, so let's run this through the grommet, or excuse me, through the stake. We're going to get all this slack out of the line. Now we're going to install a taut line. So again, I want to come here, make 2 wraps. 1, pull all the line through. Of course, you know, knowing me, I had to get 100 feet of cord to do it. Not really 100, it's more like 25, but still, you get the point, right? I got sticks getting caught. Hang on. Running out of daylight, that's why I'm trying to get this done quickly. Okay, so I have made 1, 2 wraps on my main cord here. Okay, see that? I've made 2 little rolls right there. Now I'm going to make that little D, and then all this cord that I had earlier is going to shove through. I know this doesn't make sense, but it's going to shove through this hole right here. I need to go underneath. Go underneath and shove all this cord through here. Okay, now let's clean everything up. Let's start to tighten up this thing. Now from here we can tighten our taut line. So there we have it. There's your taut line in action. There's the end of it. Where is it? Sorry about that. There's my taut line. So like I said, if I want to tighten it or loosen it, I just adjust this. And that'll adjust my tarp accordingly. And again, that's my taut line. So I want to go a little tighter. I'll just pull here, step, adjust, let it go, and it'll grab. Tighter still, step, adjust, and it'll grab. That's my taut line. Canadian jam knot. 2 overhand knots. Very simple. We have one overhand knot. Now the key to this is to leave a little bit of a tail on it. See that? And then we make another overhand knot, just like that. This is good for securing your gear. So what you would do is you'll take your standing end of your rope and you'll run it through the second overhand knot, and you'll pull this thing tight against whatever you've got that you're trying to secure. And as the knot tightens, this little knot right here cannot pass through this other knot, so it tightens, and it's kind of like a prusik to some extent. It'll tighten on things and it'll hold them shut, and then when you want to release it, you just pull here and it releases the knot. I'll show you that a little more here in a minute. The Canadian knot, this is a jam knot. This works really good. I'll use it with the big cord just to show it, but it honestly works better with smaller line. But I'll just use this big one just to show it. So it's 2 overhand knots. One right there. And you want this tail to be a couple of inches. You know, in fact, we can make that tail a little bit longer. There we go. Then you just make another one just like so. We have 2 overhand knots. Then you take the other end of your line. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, so you have this. You take your other end of your line and you feed it through. And so whatever you're going to hold, you're going to kind of tighten your line in. So whatever you're trying to hold, what's going to happen is this knot is going to tie around whatever you're hanging on to. Now this knot is so fat it can't go through here. So if it slips, you see what I'm saying? If this slips a little bit, it ain't going to go nowhere. It's not going to slip through. And this knot, this second overhand knot right here, is the one that'll bite down on your material. So I don't know if I can show it with this big of a line. It works much better on smaller lines. It's kind of like a prusik. Prusiks work real good with smaller lines. But that is your Canadian jam knot. Very simple, very easy. So when you're done, the reason you have that long tail is to break it loose. So again, there's your Canadian jam knot. Works good for securing bedrolls and things like that. Okay, this is going to be the Canadian jam, and what I want to do is I want to lash my bedroll, my blanket. Okay, so again, I'm going to take 2 overhand knots, one with a tail and then another one that's a little bit loose. Okay, now the one that's loose, I'm basically going to go around my bedding, and this tail end here is going to go in the loose end. And what's going to happen is it's going to all tighten up on itself. So with the tail being out, all I have to do is cinch this thing down, and there, it keeps it nice and tight for me. That's the Canadian jam knot. And then when I want to get it out, I just pull this tail. Okay, so again, I want to tighten it. I'll just tighten it on up. Let that hang. Keeps my bedding nice and tight. Find the little tail, and it releases it. No problem at all. That's a Canadian jam knot. Okay, in the event of an emergency situation where you might have to rappel, or you might have to lower somebody down a cliff, you can use a Munter hitch. Okay, this works really good as a belay type hitch. You can lower somebody, you can actually rappel with this if you have to. This is just a good one to know. It's a good one to keep in your pocket. So here's my working end of the rope. I basically want to lay it on top. Okay, so I'm going to take my carabiner and I'm putting the gate side of the carabiner away from my working end. Now my working end is going to come underneath and it's going to create a kind of a bite onto my carabiner. So I would be holding it like so. This would be my brake hand. This obviously would be clipped into me, and as I lower, you know, I can kind of release this brake hand and it will let the knot slip or bind. Okay, so that's the Munter hitch. Good to know. Okay, the Munter hitch. We're going to take our working end. We're going to lay it on top of the other end of our line. So we have something like this. Now we're going to take our carabiner, clip in, and now we're going to run this working end through, and this will create something that we could rappel off of. We could also belay somebody. We could lower somebody off of this. This is our brake hand. It goes back by our hip. Now, something that you don't want to do is you don't want to do the Munter hitch. Whoops, sorry. You don't want to do it like this with the brake hand on the gate side. You want the brake hand on the opposite side. So you want it to be like so. You don't want anything rubbing on the gate of your carabiner. Hello everybody, welcome back. Right now I have a bowline up here, and I'm rappelling using a Swiss seat and a Munter hitch. So this is what the Munter hitch looks like. Hopefully I'll be able to come close enough and show you. See if I can grab you and bring you in. So take a look. This is what my Munter hitch looks like. Whoops, sorry for the shaky camera work. So this is what it looks like. And as I grab my brake hand, it locks. Water knot is not for rope, generally speaking. It's for webbing. Okay, so right now I have some 1-inch tubular webbing, and let's say, for example, for the sake of the video, let's say I wanted to join these two ends together and make a big loop. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take both ends, I'm gonna set one of them down, and I'm gonna make a large open overhand knot. Okay, big old overhand knot, nice and loose. Then I'll run my hand all the way down, because I want to make sure I'm doing this the right way. The purpose of running it down is so that I can make sure things line up. Now, what I want to do is I want to take the second end and I'm going to feed it through following the first end. So I'm basically doing an overhand knot again, just on the second side. Okay, and I'm feeding it through. This creates a water knot. And this is for connecting pieces of webbing together. So if you pull real tight, this thing will get tighter and tighter and tighter, and it won't loosen. Now, what I like to do on some of my water knots, if I make webbing for climbing or something like that, I like to take dental floss and sew these little flaps down so that they don't flap around. But that's the water knot. Very simple, very effective. Okay, water knot. That's when I have webbing. Okay, I have two pieces of webbing and I want to connect them. Okay, so I'm going to throw one down. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of webbing, the first side, and I'm going to make just a very loose, simple overhand knot. Make sure that everything's nice and clean looking. Okay, so I have a very nice clean overhand knot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the other side of the webbing and I'm just going to follow this piece back through with this one. So I'm here following it through. See, I'm going on top, pulling it through, going around the bottom, coming over the top and through this hole. This creates what we refer to as a water knot. This is excellent for connecting webbing. It's very strong. In fact, over here I have one that I've put together. This is some smaller webbing, and you can see that I've stitched it with dental floss. What the dental floss does is it keeps these tails from slipping, and this is one that I take climbing with me so that I can use it for a lot of different applications. So this is the water knot to make a loop. Maybe you need to step in a loop or something like that. That's the water knot. Okay everybody, the water knot is, like I said, it's when we tie webbing together. Okay, and this might be used to create a sling that you might be using to step into a prusik or something like that. I kind of showed that a little earlier when I showed the prusik. I used this little sling. These can also be used for many things. If you're going to run a dog run or something and you want this to come down to your dog, or you know, there's all kinds of things that you could use a water knot for. But more importantly, it's for connecting two pieces of webbing. Okay, and like I said, if you do use it for a step, say I'm setting it right here and I'm gonna put my foot in this, as long as what I'm hooked to up there is strong enough, this water knot's not gonna slip at all. It's not going to slip. It's just going to bind. I could put my foot in here and stand up on this. No problem at all. So that's one of the uses for the water knot. Another thing that comes to mind right now real quick, is if you're going to be doing any kind of traditional rock climbing. Say you're going to be putting cams in the rock. You're going to be putting nuts in the rock. If you know anything about rock climbing, you'll know that you use a lot of webbing for your traditional gear. So that's another use for the water knot. Well everybody, I'm all done with my knots video. I hope that you found some good useful information here. I hope that you like the work that I did here in this video. I hope that I was able to bring this stuff to you in a way that you can understand, that I was talking clearly, that you could, you know, really learn from this and take some of those techniques and be able to use them at home for yourself. You know, I had a great time coming out here today. I kind of got in a rush in a couple places because it rained a little bit on us, but I had a great time. And so I want to say thanks for watching. You know, and as always, please feel free to comment. Please feel free to subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Please feel free to share the video if you like the content. And as always, have a beautiful day everybody. See you on the next one. I had a lot of fun, and so did my dog. Just one more note real quick. I usually keep these little handfuls of paracord in about 25-foot lengths. I found that that works pretty good for just about anything at camp. And if you need to put a longer ridge line up or something, you can fisherman's knot those cords together. Now, while I'm speaking about the fisherman's knot and the double fisherman's knot to connect two like-sized pieces of cordage together, I want to mention that of the two of them, the single fisherman's knot is easier to undo after it's been under a load than the double fisherman's knot is. The single is much easier. So again, thanks for watching everybody. Have a beautiful day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.